hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. We can hear you.
Oh, perfect. My apologies for the network issue earlier. My name is Uwakwe, and I am the current chairman of the Blockchain Industry Coordinating Committee of Nigeria, which is a coordinating body for all the respective blockchain communities. And basically, like I think Choma earlier read my profile. I've been more active within the Nigerian blockchain industry for a very long time now. And I've also been part of a lot of the industry growth from a global perspective. I've been part of a lot of different blockchain projects scattered around the world, including the era of the decentralized finance at the early time with Yen Finance, or what they call YFI, at the time, and so many other. But beyond that, my focus have always been around helping to strengthen the blockchain growth within the continent of Africa. And today I sit in the capacity as the current chairman of the Blockchain Industry Coordinating Committee. Of course, it's popularly referred to as BiCCoN. BiCCoN originally came as a result of the various blockchain communities coming together to have one voice and also being able to coordinate them. Luckily for us, associations like NOPSA clearly have shown strength in what they are currently doing, and it's part of why BiCCoN is here today in terms of supporting them, in terms of my capacity as that of the current chairman. But I would take us through a little bit around regulatory environments within the Nigerian blockchain space. Of course, today we already know that Nigeria, being one of the early adopters, or a country that have greatly shown strength in terms of aligning towards the adoption of blockchain-related products, especially in the area of cryptocurrencies, whether it is in terms of utilizing it for speculation or utilizing it for payment. The adoption rate in the country has been so great and so massive. And if you heard recent reports by the SEC chairman, Dr. Timi Agama, who made it very clear that even before the likes of Donald Trump endorsed crypto, the president of Nigeria had also done the same through his appointment, and also, of course, appointing people who are pro-crypto, basically. And in terms of the general landscape, I did actually prepare a slide around the blockchain regulations. So if you permit me, I would actually have to play a little bit around in terms of my slide, talking specifically around blockchain regulations and policy, paving the way, of course, for digital economy. So it's quite imperative to note that every country have their own challenge in terms of policy around promoting or enhancing the use of blockchain technology, whether it's in terms of crypto, whether it's from countries like the United Arab Emirates, who are far ahead of so many other countries in terms of regulations, or whether it's in the likes of places like Japan that have been one of the early people who approved the ETFs, and so many other blockchain exchanges have thrived there. For us as a country, as of today, we already have a policy, or we already have some sort of a framework that is encouraging the use of this technology. I know people will begin to think that what happens to the likes of the case like that of Binance? Does it in any way encourage people to come to Nigeria and play around the blockchain space? Of course. The incident of Binance versus the Nigerian government was just one of the few isolated cases. But from a general perspective, in terms of the regulatory environment within our country, Nigeria, there have always been growth, or will I say progress, from the days of the past two previous directors down to the current director who have identified himself as a crypto enthusiast, someone who wants to try out and play around the crypto space. And even before he became DG of the SEC, he had always shown keen interest in terms of learning and getting to know what is happening within our space. That is for the current DG. So Nigeria as of today have a framework, or have a framework in place to guide each and every one of us, whether it is a foreign company or whether it's a local company. There is a framework in place supporting the use and the participations and the business environments around blockchain. The policies, of course, or the framework as it stands today, have not been a total blanket check for everybody to just complain. But for a great number of persons who have applied, they've mostly been granted. And Currently today, there are at least about 8 entities that have been provided or given some sort of approval in principle for them to participate or partake in the business of blockchain from a formal perspective. While there are not necessarily framework or policies for individual persons who want to either utilize the technology or utilize them for the sake of trading, especially for those who trade cryptocurrencies. There is no limitations to if I as a person want to purchase crypto from the already existing or approved platform. There is no limitation regarding that. But of course, like we already know, blockchain, of course, is reshaping the industries, offering a lot of unprecedented level of transparencies, efficiencies, and decentralization. The regulatory framework for us in Nigeria is still evolving. I would rather want to see it is still evolving than to say that we're already there. The reason I see that is because there have still been some pockets of fines here and there for people who have either utilized crypto for the sake of performing some sort of activities that mirrors that of Bureau de change, right? But of course, in the country, blockchain ecosystem is one that is burgeoning. The nation, of course, is adopting a sort of diverse regulatory strategies. When we even look at how we can adopt or international best practices from the side of stakeholders, we've seen that the current SEC have apply some sort of harmony between what we have out there and what we currently have in Nigeria. Mind you, Nigeria also became the first country to approve or create the use of central bank digital currencies known as CBDC from the side of Africa. So when you look at from the side of Africa, Nigeria stands tops when it comes to policies or adoptions in terms of crypto related stuff. And when you also now look at how robust our policies are in comparison to other countries, when you put us in par with the likes of United Arab Emirates, clearly United Arab Emirates is it's far ahead. But from the side of the African space, Nigeria is between the top 3 countries when it comes to policies. When you look at places like South Africa that have already done some sort of massive work in terms of giving over 27 different licenses as of today, or even not even more. Then you look at the countries like Botswana, they've already done well. Botswana being being the first to even provide such kind of license to platforms like Yellow Card. I think Yellow Card operates with that of their Botswana license for a greater part of the operations until recent, before they got another one from places like South Africa. So Nigeria, South Africa, Botswana, and I think Mauritius. These 4 countries have really done well when it comes to framework or shaping the narrative or the landscape conversations around it. Of course, there's an importance of harmonizing these policies just to give us the best value. If you look at facilitating cross-border transactions, the regulations have made it very clear, or the framework have made it very clear in terms of current platforms like, Quidax, Busha. These are some exchanges that have gotten a lot of the policy or the approval from the SEC as of today, from the place of approval in principle, as it's called, EIP or AIRP, approval in principle. And they are sort of giving some sort of the license to operate and facilitate cross-border related transactions as a platform. And Nigeria as of today have that in place. So for new players or for those who are listening currently in these events today, you have it at from a reliable piece of information that the Nigerian framework or the Nigerian policy approves of this kind of operation, especially when you are an exchange applying for the sake of utilizing your platform for cross-border related stuff. This is also necessary. Another important aspect of why it's necessary for us to have a much more harmonized policies in terms of boosting investors' confidence. Like I did start with my earlier presentation, I said that the Binance issue was one of the few cases where people would be a bit worried, knowing fully well that that they had a little bit of challenge in terms of understanding where Nigeria stands. Is Nigeria a country that is pro blockchain or pro crypto in general? And if they are, why are they witch hunting the likes of Binance? Of course, like I said, that case was a bit peculiar in its own fashion. I may not want to go into details in terms of why they chose to do why the government chose to do what they had done at the time. But from a general perspective, the Nigerian landscape in terms of crypto and blockchain is still positive, is still welcoming, and a lot of persons who want to play in that field are mostly welcome. Of course, another important aspect of why harmonizing the policies for Nigerians is very necessary is in terms of preventing regulatory arbitrage. A lot of platforms, especially in the early days before crypto became a big thing, people played around with a lot of regulatory arbitrage because there were a lot of loopholes. People utilized them, and you could see the likes of the US SEC at the time. They ensured that couple of fines were melted out to a lot of persons whom they felt had fallen foul of the rules, even though at the time the rules weren't as clear as it were in today's landscape. So it's also important for us as a country to ensure that regulatory arbitrage are not necessarily taken advantage of and in turn hurting our own economy as a country. That's why harmonizing the policies are also very necessary. And of course, another important aspect in terms of the policy side of things for Nigeria is ensuring that we're able to balance innovation and compliance. The current framework in terms of Nigerian blockchain policies from that of the SEC is to ensure a risk-based regulation. They've, of course, prioritizing oversight for activities with higher risk, while also ensuring or fostering innovation. I did mention earlier that the current Security and Exchange Commission DG is a crypto enthusiast. He identified as that in the last event, even while he was speaking in one of the events in Morocco. And of course, the risk-based approach is necessary, not just even for us as an industry, but for a nation in general. So that's why it's important that the Nigerian current blockchain framework from that of the SEC ensure that risk-based approach are followed while encouraging or fostering innovation. We also have another important point, which is in the area of the public-private partnership. If you look at the people that have been given the current SEC license as of today, a lot of them have had these sort of collaborations between public-private partnership in terms of government or in terms of private sector participant who want to collaborate and build products. I remember a friend of mine who's also one of the, whose company is one of the beneficiary of that license. I have come from the side of ensuring that people who want to raise funds for their projects from the Nigerian ecosystem can do that on their platform, whether it is in terms of tokenizing real world assets. They are able to take advantage of these platforms and raise funds in particular. You cannot achieve such level of growth if the policies were not necessarily fostering innovation, and this what it is today. And of course, there is another aspect of the policy which is focused around sandbox and pilots. Like I did mention as well, I said that the approval as of today is some sort of an approval in principle, which means people are still allowed to play around with some sort of risky nature of the industry, but under the guidance and supervision of the regulators, in this case, SEC. That's one of the things the Nigerian policies have done. Transparencies and dialogue are one important aspect which we've always encouraged out of SEC to do. And it has really gone a long way in terms of ensuring that the Nigerian crypto or blockchain industries are not left behind in any way. If you look at the recent reports from Chain Analysis, they had ranked Nigeria and South Africa a bit far ahead in terms of other countries within the continent. And that is as a result of the work so many blockchain bodies and so many blockchain associations have been doing on ground. And of course, the friendly nature of the current SEC boss, who have identified, of course, himself as a crypto enthusiast. And of course, let me talk as well a little bit in terms of the blockchain industry. Our role in terms of shaping the landscape for policy have always been one of advocating for the right choice of policy. Even in the recent event of Nigeria versus Binance at the time, we also ensure that our advocacy and policy aspect of things were continued continuous in the entire process. We never stop, both in terms of encouraging the government to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. That's one important aspect of what we do in the Blockchain Industry Coordinating Committee of Nigeria. Of course, in terms of capacity building, recent events that we had attended in places like in some of the states in Nigeria, like Taraba, Jos, and so many other places like that, we ensure that capacity building with any private sector player who want to gain some sort of an inroad into the countries. BiCCoN as the body is always ready, or as a coordinating body is always ready to support in that capacity as well. Of course, respective associations in the body of BiCCoN have always been at the forefront of ensuring that they drive more of this growth than even BiCCoN ourselves, because our role has always been in terms of coordinating things than in terms of leading that charge per se. And in the coming years, one of the things we intend to achieve is also in terms of standard development, because it's necessary that as people come into this industry, as people come into the Nigerian blockchain space, they want to know if there are certain standards that needs to be adhered to in the course of running a business or in the course of participating in the industry. That's one of the things I think BiCCoN as a body would also encourage the likes of the SEC to do, so that the standards are very clear. You don't necessarily have to seek some sort of an advice from a respective blockchain community before you understand the standard that is being operated within the Nigerian space. These are some of the things we intend to do. And of course, community engagement, which is at the key or core of what and for as at today. These are the some of the highlights in terms of what we do in the area of policies for the country. So if I would use this last point to summarize a little bit of what I've been saying so far in terms of the policy side of things. The Nigerian blockchain regulation, of course, play a very important role in terms of unlocking the digital economy of the country. It harmonizes policies to foster innovation. As it stands today, the Nigerian blockchain space have been able to build trust in the sense that the current or the apex regulatory body for something that relates to our industry is SEC, and the current DG of SEC is one that have identified themselves as a blockchain or crypto enthusiast. These current situations of the leadership of SEC have ensured that there is some appointment, and also, of course, appointing people who are pro-crypto, basically. And in terms of the general landscape, I did actually prepare a slide around the blockchain of this kind. So for anybody who wants to build their blockchain business in Nigeria, there's a framework that encourages that. For anybody at this, so
Alejandro Man
in the entire process. We never stop, both in terms of encouraging the government to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. That's one important aspect of what we do in the Blockchain Industry Coordinating Committee of Nigeria. Of course, in terms of capacity building, recent events that we had attended in places like in some of the states in Nigeria, like Taraba, Jos, and so many other places like that, we ensure that capacity building with any private sector player who want to gain some sort of an inroad into the countries. BiCCoN as the body is always ready, or as a coordinating body is always ready to support in that capacity as well. Of course, respective associations in the body of BiCCoN have always been at the forefront of ensuring that they drive more of this growth than even BiCCoN ourselves, because our role has always been in terms of coordinating things than in terms of leading that charge per se. And in the coming years, one of the things we intend to achieve is also in terms of standard development, because it's necessary that as people come into this industry, as people come into the Nigerian blockchain space, they want to know if there are certain standards that needs to be adhered to in the course of running a business or in the course of participating in the industry. That's one of the things I think BiCCoN as a body would also encourage the likes of the SEC to do, so that the standards are very clear. You don't